Hey, Blackmore Social Club, God bless America. Talking boots. This one's, I'm going to wax poetic on this one for a minute. I was out here this morning, forgive the disheveled Saturday morning shop look, but I was out here this morning cleaning some boots, and I was getting ready to go clean up and start working in the yard for today. I grabbed these Thorogoods. These are the 8-inch mock toes. I've had these boots for a while. I know I've had them for a while. They've been at the bottom of my boot closet. And I'm building on something here, so bear with me. These have been go-to boots forever. I mean, for as long as I can remember. I bought these boots before I knew what a heritage boot was. It was back then when I bought these boots. I was a lineman for the phone company. I needed work boots. They used to have a work boot, or maybe they still do, have a work boot program where they'd buy you a new pair of work boots, periodically. And technically speaking, because I was a lineman, you had to have a certain heel and a certain type sole to be able to handle the hooks and handle the things. And I used to, sorry guys at work, I used to use my work boot money for boots that I wanted. And I would buy wedge sole boots because they tracked less dirt and they were more comfortable to walk on. And if I'm being honest, I would risk it. I just wanted my pair of work boots the way I wanted to wear them. And so what I would do with that work boot allowance is buy the pair of work boots I wanted. I would also buy, the right pair of climbing boots. And then whenever I needed to climb, I would put on that pair of boots. And when I wanted to just walk around and work, I'd put on these. I don't know why I just told you that whole story. But I guess the reason I was telling you that story is because this was a boot of preference back then. It had nothing to do with heritage. It had nothing to do with nostalgia. It had nothing to do with longevity or handmade or anything. And I'll tell you, this will date myself. I was a early 20s guy at the time. And that's what struck me this morning. I'm out here and I'm getting these boots ready to go work in the yard. And I'm going to be weed eating, and I'm going to be mowing and cutting trees and just doing a few things in the yard to clean up. And I think to myself, before I go wake everybody in the house up, and before I go start, running showers, and again, I thought, let me come out to the shop, let me clean these boots up and get them ready for the day, because I haven't conditioned them in a while. And I started noticing, and I may cut in some of the video of me cleaning them because I've had this thing recording for a while, but I started noticing little specks that were coming off on my hands and my arms while I was cleaning and conditioning. And what I realized it's this tag that they put on here. And I started looking at it, and one of the numbers I can still make out is January of 2004. So I've had these boots for 21 years. 21 years I've had these boots. And that really got me thinking, that's older than my daughter. I'm a little bit, again, I don't want, it's gonna sound weird when I say I get emotional about that. But I can't think of many things outside of my wife that I've had for 21 years. In fact, I'm not even positive my wife and I have been married for 21 years. So these predate my marriage, my kids, any sense of responsibility I had. I used to oversleep in these with these boots. Me and this pair of boots have overslept and driven way too fast to try to make it to work on time. There's no telling what these boots have seen. 21 years. And so I thought I'd do a Talking Boots about these Thorogood 8-inch mock toe work boots. Now, before anybody says anything, I don't know too much history about Thorogood. I know these were made in the USA. I know 21 years ago they were made in the USA. They used to have little tags right here that had a flag on it. I thought that was obnoxious, so I took my knife and I trimmed it off. Since 1892 is what their tag says. Now, the story is there was a 13-year-old kid named Weinbrenner that took over his dad's cobbling business. Hear what I said, 13 years old. Learned to cobble from his father, went into the family business. I think it was a partnership between Weinbrenner and Pfeiffer, maybe, but I think it was spelled with P's. So up in Wisconsin area, Milwaukee, somewhere in there, and I tried to do a little bit of research as much as I care to do. But long story short, it's an American company, and they were a jobber boot company. And by that I mean they specialized in creating work boots for certain trades. So they did logger boots, they did lineman boots, they did electrical. I mean, you name it. They did jobber type boots, chasing those trades. One of the cool stories I heard about them was they had a factory set up, and as they were transitioning to this Thorogood branding sometime in the early 1900s, they made a deal with maybe it was Milwaukee, maybe it was somebody up in northern Wisconsin, but long story short, there was an agreement to give them land and 2 buildings for like $1 if they brought their equipment, so that because the logging industry had completely started drying up, and all the workers, they needed work. So they made the deal, Weinbrenner Company made the deal for $1 to take on this building, this factory, and bring their equipment so that area and that community could have jobs. And I think, isn't that the coolest part about companies? To make $1 deal for land and buildings to bring work to families that are there, to workers that are there, to men that needed the work. So still an American-made company, still such a rich history. I think I saw somebody say that for 20 or 30 years, they were the biggest boot manufacturer in the United States, maybe even larger. So Thorogood Boots, they haven't always made under the Thorogood name. They would make pairs for other companies. If somebody came in and said they needed 1,500 pair of boots with their brand, so they've made boots under buku brands. But that's enough about the history, because quite frankly, that's all I remember. But I do think it's what a wicked cool story to be able to talk about the history and the heritage of your boots and a company that's still American made. So I guess they are a heritage boot. Again, I didn't know that when I was shopping for these boots 21 years ago, but I guess they are a heritage boot. So maybe even prior, well, in fact, I know prior to those Red Wing Iron Rangers, I've given them credit for being the first heritage boot I ever bought. I guess I was wrong, and I didn't realize it until this morning, because I've never considered these one of those boots. But now that I've experienced so much of this other boot talk and this other boot history and education, whatever you want to call it, I'm looking at these boots through a different lens. and I'm looking at the quality and how they're built. And I've got this calibrated gauge now that I can check the thickness of leather, and I'm going to say this is every bit of 7+ ounce leather. There's no doubt in my mind it's thicker than any of the Truman leather that I've held. Now, maybe that's a time stamp in history. Maybe it's thinner today. I don't know. Feel free to discuss in the comments. But this is thick leather. It's got the rolled top, finished top here. That used to be white, and now it's shades of sweat and green and grass and oils, and I love it. The padded collar, I love it. When I was cleaning these boots, I couldn't even keep this stuff. I couldn't even keep it stiff or sturdy. It wants to fall over on itself. So that tells you how comfortable these boots break in. They're totally collapsed, and I love it. There is a Celastic structured toe here just to hold the mock toe proud. But, again, these walk like a tennis shoe. They just don't feel like a boot anymore. And I've done a couple things over 21 years to make that happen. Obviously, 21 years worth of wear and 21 years worth of just abuse. The inside the boot, unlined, except for, let me get down there and feel. It feels like a canvas lining, so there's no additional leather, kip, nothing like that. It really does feel like a canvas leather, or a canvas lining on that, if even that. Just insanely comfortable. Insanely comfortable. Pull loop all the way up. The stitching, you can see that there's 3 rows of stitching here. There's 2 up across the heel stay or the heel counter, 3 rows up the vamp, up the quarter onto the vamp. Mock toe, in this case a faux mock toe, where it's just bunched but not really 2 pieces of leather combined. Again, I'm waxing poetic because I was literally stunned to realize that how long I've had these, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that this boot, which if I checked this morning, if I checked the right pair, and maybe things have changed over 20 some odd years, but I want to say you can still get these for about $270. And before anybody says anything, let me talk about the construction of it. It is a plastic Goodyear welt. It's a Vibram wedge sole that is seen quite some wear, and I'm not changing that at all. This thing is incredibly comfortable. The heel is gone. You can see, again, how that's been worn, but I'm sticking with it. And so anybody that wants to say that you can't get a good boot, 21 years of wear, they're still not unraveling stitches. It's still, the heel isn't separating. I put that pair of Trumans, the work boot, back in the box and sent it back to them. One of the main reasons was because I saw right through here on one of the boots where the sole wasn't pressed firmly into the midsole, and it was separating enough that I could catch my finger on the gap. 21 years, there's not even the first separation. So I've changed the laces quite a few times just because. But outside of that, I've done nothing to these boots but occasionally wipe down, brush. These have been sprayed with everything from WD-40, every kind of boot conditioner, every kind of, I've probably put leather upholstery, couch cleaner, you name it, and I've sprayed these boots with it. Just without any sense of I just can't say enough. I can't say enough. For what was probably a $250 pair of boots 21 years ago. And so this morning when I cleaned them up, I just got a new appreciation for them. I did put over the years, I took the insole out and put a comfort type insole in, and that just increased for my taste, that increased the wearability. I mean, now they're incredibly comfortable and feel a little bit less like a work boot. But the scratches, the scars, the threads, everything that has made these boots unique to me, break into me, everything about them is just coming back and hitting me square between the eyes this morning. And I don't know, I just wanted to share it with you guys. I thought this was such a cool find. And I just didn't realize, and it's funny how time flies. It's funny how 21 years ago, I would have been 25. I would have been 25, 26 years old, again, just dating my wife. And I can only imagine where my mind was when I was shopping for a pair of boots. And at the time, I wouldn't have critiqued, oh, well, they didn't use a real leather Goodyear welt. I wouldn't have even known better. And I guess, history has shown me that sometimes we can be foolish about how hoity-toity we are. Because if this pair of boots can last this well, it's aged better than I have. And I bet there's another 20 years worth of wear left in them if I can keep up. You guys be blessed. We'll talk soon.